Alright, so today I'm going to try doing a video lesson so that you guys can watch it at your own pace, skip around, or rewatch sections if you want to. But we're going to start the same way that we normally do. So even though we're doing a video lesson, I still want you to follow along with your own notes, and you can just copy right from the screen because I'm using my little document cam to record exactly what I would be saying anyway. So up at the top, we're going to start with our name, the date, which is 9/21/16, and our notes for, we are doing 2.4 and 2.5 today. And our title is going to be Decimal Addition. Now, so far we've talked all about decimal systems, compared them to whole numbers, and we've even talked about why we use them and the problem with decimals. When we often get too many decimals in there, it gets a little bit confusing. But we do need to add decimals sometimes, and we have just one kind of key to adding decimals. So remember our decimal point. We're going to do a couple definitions. And the point of that decimal point is it separates the whole number from the fractional part of the number. And when we're adding, it's key for us to keep those separate and make sure that we add things correctly. So when we're adding, we have a couple of important steps and a couple of important rules that we have to remember. And our most important rule, above all, our number one forever times 1,000 times, is that we need to line up the numbers correctly. Just like when we're adding whole numbers, if I was going to add 8 plus 4, I need to put them on top of each other before I can add them up and get the correct answer. The same is true for my decimals, but when I'm adding a decimal, I need to make sure that my decimal points are lined up. So lining up the numbers correctly means line up decimal points. So that means when I have a number like this, 8.5 plus 7.2, notice my decimal points are exactly in line. So I have my ones here, I have my tenths here, and now I can add them up correctly. If I write my numbers and I have like 8.2 plus 7.934, and I add these up, I have to write them like this: 8.2 plus 7.934. Because above all else, I need to have my decimal points lined up with everything else. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of these, and we'll start with the easier ones and go to the harder ones. So we know how to do this: 8 plus 4 equals 12. At least I hope that we do, because we've done that, primary, elementary, multi-age, and bridging, and with Crystal as well. But we're going to talk and remind ourselves how we're going to do these decimal addition parts. So we have our 8.5 plus 7.2. So you're going to get the question, and it's probably going to be written like this: 8.5 plus 7.2. And before we can add this up, I want to see in your homework, I want to see how you're going to line them up correctly. So like this: 8.5, 7.2. So now I can just add them kind of in order. I've got 7, I've got, 15, and my decimal point drops down to exactly where it was before. And then just like normal, I'm going to put my beautiful little box around it and have a little celebration, because I just got to my right answer. There we go. Let's call this one example 1, and we're going to go on to example 2. And we're going to look at this same one that we were writing up here. And that's going to be 8.2 plus 7.934. Now the question that you might have here is, how can I add up two decimals when there is a different amount of digits following the decimal point? Well, it's easy, and I'll show you what happens. So we're going to line it up just like we did before, and we're going to write 8.2 plus 7.934. Notice again, I made sure to line up my decimal points, because that is the key in all of this decimal addition. Now, if I'm adding this 3 and this 4, I don't have anything to add to. But if you recall, I can always put a number in here when I'm working with decimals. I can always add zeros to the right, because it does not change the value of my number. Because I can add a million, thousand, infinite number of zeros here, and I still really have 8.2. But remember, mathematicians are lazy, so we typically don't put those zeros in there. But when it becomes important, like now, we have to put them back in. So 0 plus 4 is 4, 0 plus 3 is 3, 2 plus 9 is 11, so I carry just like normal. 8 plus 7 plus 1 is 16. I make sure to bring my decimal point down exactly in the same line as before, and my answer is 16.134. I'll do one more example. If you feel like you understand it, skip it. But if you don't, then don't skip it, obviously. And let's look at this one. We're going to add up 4.5 plus 2.137. Okay, so my first step, as before, I'm going to line them up beautifully like I did. So I have a 4.5 and a 2.137. Notice again, my decimal points are in line. And I can keep a 0 in my head here if I want, or I can write it. It doesn't really matter, as long as I know what I'm really supposed to be doing. So I'll put a 7 here. 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 0 is 3. 5 plus 1 is 6. My decimal point comes down. My 4 plus 2 is 6. So my answer is 6.637, or 6 and tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 6 and 637 thousandths. And this will pretty much get us through this whole section. You may have some questions that ask you to have to round and then add, and we should know how to do that, so I will not go over that. Actually, I'll do one example that requires rounding and then adding, just to show you. If you already know how to do this, or you feel comfortable, feel free to skip it, no worries. But this will be our example 4. So let me find one of these examples that I like. I'll just grab one of the odds, because I know you guys won't be doing that. We're going to round to the 100th and then find the sum. So I'll write that. Oops. And remember, sum always means add them up. So that's one of those math terms that I can always remember. So I have 511.09 plus 99.0986. So if I'm going to round to my 100th, first I have to find my rounding digit. So 10th, 100th, okay. I'm going to looking at this 1 digit here, I'm going to be looking at this 9 digit here. Let's bring this one down by rounding. Look at this 1, look to the right, oh, it's a 1, so it stays the same, and get rid of the rest. So I can rewrite this as 511 and 51 hundredths. My 99, I'm going to take a look at my rounding digit, which is a 9. I have an 8 to the right, which means I have to add 1 to the 9, which gives me a 10, which means my 10 I write as 1, 0, and now I have 99.10, and I can really get rid of that 0, because remember, at the right of anything, I can always get rid of it. So now I can add them up. I have 511 and 51 plus 99.1. Remember, as is key, I line up my decimal points. Okay, and I'm going to fill in a 0 there because it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. 1 plus 0 is 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. I'm going to drop my decimal down. 9 plus 1 is 10, so I'm going to carry. 9 plus 1 plus 1 is 11, so I'm going to carry again, and 6. So I have 610 and 61 hundredths. I'm going to box it, and this is our little 2.4 video. I'm going to make a separate video for the first one in case this one doesn't work. I hope that worked.